Hi, I'm Samuel Grimes, Sam Grimes, and I will be the instructor for BS 112 Yoga and Buddhism within the yogicstudies.com platform. And I just want to take the time to describe myself and describe the course just to give people an idea of who I am and what the course is and see if they would like to sign up for it or not. So I work on Tantric Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism. I'm a scholar of the diamond vehicle form of Mahayana Buddhism. And I especially look at Buddhism in Nepal because Nepal is the only place where Sanskrit Mahayana is still practiced today and has been practiced continuously there for over 1,000 years. And I also look at the forms of Vajrayana that might be called late Indic that existed in what's now India up until roughly the mid 13th century, until at which point Nepal sort of became a life raft for that form of Buddhism, if you will. And then that form of Buddhism, of course, was translated into Tibet and into Tibetan. And in looking at those forms of Buddhism, I have seen how incredibly crucial the practice of ritual is, and the recitation of mantras, the creation of mandalas, the offering of mandalas, the creation and offering of mudras, which are hand gestures, various visualization practices to bring into being certain things that are required for ritual, certain things that are required for yogic practice. And so I designed this course, which I taught at University of Virginia and at University of California, Berkeley, as a way to introduce students to thinking about yoga in many different ways and seeing the very wide semantic range of that word yoga and all the different meanings that it can have. And the meanings that it can have extend far beyond what this course will cover. But I wanted to kind of hone right in on this particular form of Indic Tantric Buddhism and look at how yoga is practiced in certain ways there that might not immediately come to mind when someone hears the term yoga. And so the way that I've done that is for this course is I've broken it into these four modules, and each module is looking at yoga as a particular kind of practice. So the first module is yoga as meditation, the second is yoga as ritual, the third is yoga as behavior, and the final module is yoga as postural practice. And I realize that there may be a little bit of redundancy with other courses that have been offered on the Yogic Studies platform, especially when it comes to yoga as meditation and yoga as postural practice. But I want to walk you through them now so that you can hear what I'm going to talk about, so you can see how it relates to a bigger picture and how it's really impossible to talk about what we will be talking about without starting and ending with those two modules. So the first module, yoga as visualization, or yoga as meditation, will look at kind of the basic forms of Buddhist meditation and then launch way past them to where we get forms of Buddhist meditation starting in the mid-first millennium that are especially concerned with visualizing things and bringing things into existence, bringing things into being, bhavana. And we will look very closely at that and see how that form of meditation very easily was brought into a form of Buddhist tantras that are called yoga tantras, in which the practitioner imagines that he or she is in fact a Buddha and becomes a Buddha. And so we'll look at what yoga means in that case and how those visualization practices can be called yoga themselves and how they're tied into older forms of Indian philosophy such as Madhyamaka, which is the kind of emptiness school of philosophy, and Chittamatra, mind only, also called Yogacara, practice of yoga philosophy. Then in the second module, yoga as ritual, I will look really closely at ritual practices of Newar Buddhists and the theory behind those ritual practices. So why are those rituals done? What do these rituals have to do with certain Buddhist philosophical ideas? How can visualization be employed during the ritual to aid in the ritual and to aid in getting closer to liberation and nirvana? And why is ritual so critical to yogic practice? Because really, ritual is a form of yoga. The practitioner of ritual is called various names, but one of those names is yogin, a practitioner of yoga. And so we will explore not just kind of the individual ritual practitioner, but also the physical geographical space, and how all of these things are in a sort of conversation with one another to bring about the goal of ritual. And we will explore, why someone would undertake this particular practice of yoga to get towards the goal of liberation, rather than a more kind of stereotypical form of yoga such as meditation. And from there, we will turn to the third module, which is yoga as behavior. And in this module, we will especially look at these figures that are called siddhas, who are these rather charismatic, kind of, for lack of a better term, crazy figures that appeared in history. We will try to understand how their behavior itself is a form of yoga, how their behavior, their transgressive behavior, is a form of yoga. And we will also be looking at sexual practices that were done in Vajrayana. We will consider the positions of people who understood those sexual practices as something that was to be done for real, that is, that the instructions are taken literally. And then the other side of the spectrum, the people such as Newars today, who argue that the sexual language in the tantras is purely symbolic. And we will explore in either case how these sexual yogas represent sort of the highest form of yoga and are the fastest way to get awakening in Vajrayana Buddhism. And then finally, we'll close with a section called Yoga as Postural Practice. And this will be kind of a two-pronged module. The first half of the module will be exclusively looking at female practitioners of yoga and asking the question, what can we know about female practitioners of yoga in the pre-modern period? And we will explore the idea of whether or not it's possible to know much about them. We will try to ask how much agency they had, how much of their practice was, their own decision making, how much of it was just really coercion because of the society that they lived in. And we will explore all these ideas, and we won't really be able to answer this question, but the goal here is to just sort of talk about this and have a discussion about really trying to understand the lives of ordinary yoga practitioners. And because really what we get are the records of the very elite, highest people. And this is exploring how we can look not only into non-elite yoga practitioners, but also into female yoga practitioners in particular, because obviously in sexual yoga, for example, it's a male and a female, and all of the texts that we have are very normative, prescriptive texts written by men for men, and we are going to try as best we can to kind of get any information about the female practitioners there, who they were, what amount of agency they had in these situations, and really even if we can even approach an answer to that at all. And then we will close that final module really by looking at this text, Amrita Siddhi, which has been looked at a lot by, there's a course on it on Yogic Studies with Jim Mallinson, but we will look at the Amrita Siddhi kind of in a Tantric Buddhist context, and we will explore the motivations for producing such a text and the motivations for moving away from the other forms of yoga that we've been looking at, namely the ritual forms of yoga. And the Amrita Siddhi is all about preserving sexual energies, which flies in the face of the siddhas that we looked at. And so in many ways, it's a reaction against their forms of yoga as well. And so we will explore the Amrita Siddhi, but hopefully in a way that no one in the course has explored it before so far. That is to say, we will explore it as a kind of movement that comes out of a very particular form of Tantric Buddhism that we will have already looked at the beginning of the course. So I hope that you sign up, and I will be there on the Fridays during the course to answer any questions that you have, and I will always be responding to emails. I'll be in Nepal for the duration of the course, except for the final meeting. But yeah, I hope that you enjoy the course, and I hope that everyone gets awakening from it.